Let me ask you something. What would you do if someone tried to steal your home, the place your great great grandma built with a forged piece of paper and a manicured smile? Would you fold or would you fight like hell? I'm talking about the kind of fight that makes you lose sleep and question if the world's lost its damn mind. That's the mess I found myself in. And trust me, if you've never watched your family legacy dangle by a thread, held by someone who taps French nails on your door frame, like she's already measured the curtains you don't know rage. I'm Ezra Blackwood, 52 years old, retired electrician, stubborn as a tree root. This house, my house, was built in 1869, right after the Civil War, by hands I share blood with. My late wife Sarah and I, we raised our family here, fixed up the original crown moldings, and she made sure the whole place smelled like linseed oil and hope. Every time I brush my hand over the banister, I remember her. She polished that brass knob so smooth it feels like holding hands with the past. But the past, it turns out, wasn't enough to protect me from Constance Fairweather. Now, if you're picturing some benevolent neighbor, stop right there. Imagine a real estate Barbie sharp as a razor, bleach blonde, tailored suits, French manicure, white BMW that looks like it's allergic to dirt. She bought the biggest house in the neighborhood, the one that sprouted up like a tumor around my place back in the 80s, and crowned herself president of the local HOA before the ink dried. Her specialty, squeezing old folks. Her playbook, find the oldest houses. Slap them with fake violations grass too long, mailbox wrong, shade of beige, then pile up fines till you're drowning. By the time you realize what's happening, she's offering to buy your house for half its worth, then flipping it for a profit. She'd already forced out Martha Sweet Martha, who just wanted roses in her yard. Robert Bellamy, too, hit with drainage violations every time it rained. They both ended up selling their homes to her company for pennies. But my place is protected by a deed that's older than her entire HOA. Free from association liens or fees carved in stone by my great-grandmother, who I promise you would haunt anybody who tried to break her rules. But Constance. She's the kind of person who looks at a locked door and thinks, I wonder what's inside for me. Reason doesn't work on her. The attack started on a Tuesday. I was halfway through my first coffee on the porch, listening to the creak of boards, older than anyone on the block, when her BMW rolled up like a battleship coming to port. She got out heels, stabbing my gravel, all authority, and hairspray. Mr. Blackwood, she said, waving a clipboard, fat with papers. We need to discuss your numerous property violations. I almost spit out my coffee. Lady, I take care of this place better than most people take care of their cars. She listed off everything from unapproved paint to garden exceeding boundaries, and get this failure to file architectural modification requests. Sarah's roses were sparkling in the dew, and this woman was treating them like a crime scene. I told her never joined your HOA, never signed anything, didn't even know you existed until you showed up. She handed me a document with my grandma's signature on it. But I know my family, and that paper felt too new. Grandma died in January 83. The document was dated December 82. The HOA didn't even exist until 85. It was a joke, but not a funny one. She was already clicking away, in her heels tossing over her shoulder, 30 days to comply. Pay the $12,000 in fees, or we'll foreclose. It felt like the house itself was shaking with anger. Within a week, I was getting certified letters every other day, each thicker than a phone book. Each filled with official-looking documents, all signed by Grandma, except the paper was laser printed, signatures smoother than arthritis ever allowed, and the yellowing looked like a coffee bath from that morning. 30 years of being an electrician, you get an eye for the details. These were amateur forgeries. They missed the ink, the composition, the typeface hell, even the paper was too heavy. And the signatures. Grandma's hand shook so bad in her last years, no way she wrote anything that smooth. But it wasn't just the paperwork. I took everything to the county courthouse, smelled like dust and old battles. The clerk Betty remembered my grandma from church. Ezra, honey. She whispered that HOA filed in 85 3 years after your grandma passed. And here's the kicker. Those old property lines, my family's land stretched 20 feet into what the HOA called their common area. Their precious gazebo, their meetings all sitting on my ground. Armed with real documents, I walked into one of Constance's kangaroo courts. She banged her gavel like she was about to declare martial law. Mr. Blackwood, you refuse to pay lawful HOA assessments. I stood up slow, savoring it. Ma'am, your HOA started in '85. My grandma died in '83. The signatures are fake. And your community center is 20 feet onto my property. Dead silence. Her face lost its color. When I waved the certified county records, her head enforcer, Brad, a guy who looks like he could bench press a Buick, jumped up yelling about troublemakers. But she was sweating, texting under the table, and everyone else was whispering, probably wondering who else she'd conned. She called for an executive session, translation, panic room. Walking home past the streetlights and Sarah's old oak trees, I felt hope for the first time in months. But Constance wasn't done. Next morning, 5 new violation notices in my mailbox. Porch railings from 1923 illegal. Sarah's roses non-compliant. Lawnmower noise violation. Tool shed improper storage. $500 per infraction. $200 administrative costs. The message was clear. Embarrass her in public, she'd declare war in private. That's when the real harassment started. Brad, her enforcer, showed up every morning in his diesel pickup, taking photos, measuring my grass, snapping shots of Sarah's bird feeder, her sunflower doormat, even the old milk jug planter. Every day, new violations, more fines. I tried calling lawyers. Every affordable one in 3 counties had already been consulted by the HOA. Conflict of interest. She'd boxed me in. It was Sarah's old floorboard creaking that reminded me, when they stacked the deck deal, your own cards. I found Martha Rodriguez, an HOA lawyer, 2 counties over. She took one look at the paperwork and called it textbook harassment, but said fighting would cost $15,000 minimum. I had barely half that. But she'd seen Constance's tricks before, forced sales, all to her company, always at a loss for the homeowners. I started watching Constance. She'd show my house to buyers while I was at the store. Contractors measuring my lot for future development. She was already spending my inheritance. That's when Dorothy Williams, 74 librarian expert at smelling a rat, showed up with cookies and a stack of documents. She'd done some digging. Turns out Brad's brother owned the landscaping company, getting all the HOA contracts. The independent property management company, Shell. Same for the towing service. Dorothy's best find, a leaked document, pre-filled purchase agreements for every elderly resident facing violations. My name topped the list, offer price, $60,000 below assessed value. Worse, the violation notices always started exactly 90 days before these offers. Robert Bellamy joined in, Martha Gonzalez too. We sat at my kitchen table, battle planning like generals. Robert, an engineer, saw the whole thing as organized crime. They're not government. Citizens arrest laws apply if we prove fraud. And Dorothy, she dug deeper. Property sales, missing funds, even illegal city power, tapped for the HOA community center, 3 years worth, about 30 grand. We built our case. I wired up surveillance cameras, hid trail cams in electrical junction boxes, motion-activated battery-powered. Dorothy hit them with requests for every financial record, every bank statement. Robert traced utility theft. And Martha, my lawyer, found the state attorney general was investigating HOAs for elder abuse, wanted my case as their flagship. They asked me to wear a recorder to the next HOA meeting. Get Constance talking. Everything she said would go straight to federal prosecutors. My old electrician's hands rewired a hearing aid for extra battery life. Dorothy live-streamed the meeting to her phone. Robert watched from the parking lot, ready to call police. 3 days before the meeting, Brad started sniffing around, asking neighbors what I was up to, offering money for info. That night, I spotted a pickup, no plates parked nearby. I flipped my house's main breaker, kept the cameras running on batteries, and called the cops when Brad and two goons tried to access my electrical lines. I disabled their truck's battery just enough so they couldn't leave. Cops showed up, found Brad with a crowbar. He and his buddies got hauled away in handcuffs. Next day, Constance went nuclear. City code inspectors at my door accusing me of dangerous wildlife. Sarah's tomcat dead, 3 years. A process server handed me papers claiming I was mentally incompetent. Her last play, trying to have me declared unfit so they could take my house. But while she was busy framing me, Dorothy's research paid off. The insurance policy from 1955, Section 4, explicitly protected my land from HOA liens, forever superseding any future claims. Legally binding, and more financial records tax discrepancies, evidence of her paying herself with stolen funds, targeting widows for forced sales. The AG's office executed search warrants on Constance Brad, the HOA. Froze accounts. Seized files. The night of the meeting, 300 neighbors packed the community center. Constance, oblivious, tried to put on her best show. Called me a threat to the community, said I was spreading malicious rumors, exhibiting erratic behavior. That's when I stood up. Maybe you'd like to explain why federal agents raided your office this morning. The crowd went silent. She tried to deny it, but Agent Bellamy from the FBI stood up in the back, marched down the aisle, badge shining, read her rights. She protested, shrieked, claimed, I was crazy, but the cuffs went on anyway. Dorothy held up the insurance policy. Robert explained the utility theft, and the whole room erupted, people cheering, some trying to sneak out. Constance. Her empire in ruins was led away in handcuffs. Brad got time too. Even the judge, her brother-in-law no less, was exposed and thrown off the bench for his part in buying up foreclosed properties at a discount. Every forced sale was reversed. The old HOA dissolved. Our neighborhood finally free. 6 months later, the neighborhood feels different. Lighter. We held a block party right on my lawn, barbecue, music, laughter. Martha got her home back. Dorothy became our neighborhood historian, making sure nobody ever got conned again. I used some of my settlement to start a legal defense fund for elderly neighbors. And a little kid handed me a crayon certificate, Home Sweet Home Forever. It hangs next to Sarah's favorite photo of our roses. You know, it's funny sometimes. Justice actually shows up. Not in the way you expect, not all at once, but slow and certain as sunrise. The moral document everything. Stand together. Know your rights and never trust a bully just because they have a title and a clipboard. But let me ask you, where do you draw the line? If someone with a suit and a smile comes for your home, your legacy, what would you do? Would you walk away or fight for what's right, even if it means taking on the whole damn system? I'd love to hear what you think, and if you've ever been pushed like that, tell me your story. Because in the end, maybe the only thing stronger than a crooked empire is a neighborhood that finally says no more.